Looking for a Chironomid Pupa pattern trout can't refuse? You gotta add my buddy Ryan's Refusia to your box. So named because it's fuchsia pink rib and the trout can't refuse it. So let's sit down and tie the Refusia. So the hook I'm going to tie this on is an Alec Jackson Crystal Covert Nymph hook. These are a silver coloration in size 11. This is large. This would be on the large end of the spectrum, but it stands out well for demonstration purposes. Ryan prefers to tie it on a size 13 or even a 15. So these covert hooks have an odd size to them. So the 11 is a 12, the 13 would be a 14, and the 15 would be a 16. And even the 17 would be an 18. So Ryan likes them small. So onto the hook as well, I've slid a two-tone tungsten bead. So this is a 3/32 white at the front, and then we've got a kind of bronze coloration for the back half. The front half suggests the gills, the back half suggests the wing pads. The way these beads work, you can sort of see there's a little tag sticking out, so I've got to roll this one onto the top, so that tag is, and then I push these beads together and they'll lock just like that. For the tying thread, we're going to use some Semperfli classic waxed burnt orange. In this case I'm using 12-aught. You could use 8-aught as well. 12-aught's nicer for the smaller sizes. You could also use rust brown, because this is going to, when the fly is finished, it's only visible right behind the bead and helps suggest the wing pads, the coloration of the wing pads of the natural adult. Sorry, the natural pupa. And then we just get that started, trim away the excess. We're going to carry on down about halfway. Give this a spin to flatten the wraps. Use our thumb and forefinger to also help with the flattening process. And then I'm going to come back up. Again, close touching turns all the way to the rear of that bead. And then we're going to tie in our ribbing, which is UTC wire. This is what Ryan likes to use in fuchsia, where the Refusia comes from. So we're just going to hold that wire up along the near side of the shank, get that tied in, and then secure it all the way down slightly into the bend. So again, I'm just spinning the bobbin counterclockwise to flatten the wraps, and I'm actually pulling that wire towards me slightly and actually wrapping the thread just onto the wire so it slides down onto the hook. And this practice helps ensure that your thread wraps lay one wrap right next door to the other, so you don't have any gaps, and that helps you build a nice smooth body and don't have any ill effects should the body, something shine through those thread wraps and impact the overall body coloration. Not really an issue on this fly, because as you'll see when we tie in the body material, nothing's going to shine through that. So we're going to secure this all the way down, whoops, into the bend slightly. So I go, to ensure I do that, I go down to the back of the crush down barb, maybe one wrap or two wraps past that point, just so I'm back into the bend slightly. For the body, Ryan likes to use a silver Mylar. He uses the Uni Mylar in the gold silver coloration. So we are going to tie that in right at the back with the gold side facing outward, because when we put our first wraps in, that's going to flip over and the silver side will show through. So just get it tied in nice and flat on top or on the side, it doesn't really matter. Just get it in, and then close adjacent wraps. Not so much for thread coloration and making sure there's consistency there, because the Mylar is not transparent, you can't see through it, but just to make sure we have a nice smooth underbody so we don't have any unnatural lumps and bumps in our fly. So now we're just going to build up the taper using the thread. So I've spun the bobbin counterclockwise, and we're just going to go up the shank, close wraps, one right next door to the other, being slow and deliberate. And about every third of the way up the shank, I'm just going to stop, smooth out that thread, and spin. I'm just going to go right the way up. So right now we've got the initial half shank covered back and forth, and then we've got down the shank to secure the wire, and now we're coming up. So we've got 2.5 layers of thread, if that makes sense. So we're just going to come up, and I'm going to go down probably about 1/2 to 3/4 of the shank, just to build up a subtle taper. Again, remembering to spin and flatten the wraps as best we can. And you want to concentrate the taper, the thickest part of the body, towards the front part of the shank to match the natural taper of the natural Chironomid pupa. This is very much your own personality on this as well. I tend to favor Chironomid pupa patterns that are very slender. Other tyers may like them a little more robust. It's entirely up to you to match the Chironomid pupa you're seeing on your local waters and what you like your flies to look like. Because if you believe in your fly and have confidence in it, I think you're going to fish it a little better. So I'm just going to go back maybe no more than 1/3. I think I'm liking the look of that. So keep in mind how many times you've traveled up and down the shank, so you can duplicate that with the next flies you tie, so they're nice and consistent. So now we're just going to form our body by taking our Mylar and just winding it in close touching turns, one wrap right next door to the other, to build a nice silver body. You can hear that, wrapping it with good tension. You might be able to hear that sound of the wire being wrapped under tension. Sorry, not the wire, the Mylar. And we're just going to come up, tie it off, a couple of wraps over the top, a couple of wraps in front between the bead and the tie-off area, and just come in and find point scissors and just nip away the excess like so. And then all we're going to do is wrap our fuchsia wire forward. We want the target is about 7 wraps. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and up. Tie off. One front, and then just right at the tie-off area, just twist and rotate and helicopter and break that wire away. And we're going to spin that bobbin counterclockwise again to flatten the wraps, and we're going to build up our thread thorax or collar to simulate the wing pads of the natural pupa. So we want that to extend back no further than the length of the beads. Like so, and just gradual taper. Don't be too aggressive. Don't build it up too fast, too steep, because when you go to whip finish at the end, it's just going to all tumble down and loosen the wrap. So I like the look of that. And we're just going to build a 2 to 3 turn whip finish. Nice and tight, because we're going to coat this fly from one end to the other for added durability and shine. And for the coating, we'll just use some of the Solara's Bone Dry. And give that a coating. And these coatings are so nice because they're nice and thin, so there's no excessive buildup, and yet not thin enough that they run all over the place and create unnatural sags or buildup of the coating. I'm just going to let that set, and then we're going to come in with our curing light and cure it. So just rotate the light all the way around it, like so. It takes just a few seconds to coat it. And then for a little added shine, once that's cured, Take a little Sally Hansen's as well for a little bit of deeper luster. You could also add a second coat of the Solaris if you wanted to. So there you have it, the finished Refusia. Ryan said it was a variation of my Chromie, and it's a deadly little pattern. You definitely want to make sure you have a few of these in your fly box. Again, in that size 11, 13, 15, and even 17.